Welcome to the Everything's Bros podcast, where anything goes. My name is Tony, the middle brother.
I'm Will, I'm the best older brother.
I'm Matt, I'm the coolest younger brother.
And today's topic is siblings. Having a sibling is a love-hate relationship. You enjoy your time together, but certain quirks about them kind of grind your gears from time to time, making you want to rip their head off. I'm fairly convinced this is the kind of relationship something all siblings experience. Although is this bickering similar across families? There are all these stereotypes and quirks about each sibling, character traits universally assigned by age order, youngest versus oldest, but in our case, youngest, middle, and oldest. We're going to explore some of these stereotypes, and we will have the oldest brother kick us off with what he believes.
Let me say this. I was the test subject. You both had it so easy, and I'm just very upset about this whole thing.
I see this as an absolute win.
Because, you got to think about this. When you're the oldest, you go through everything first. And listen, parents are great. They do their best. But they're learning. And you are the test subject. You are the lab rat. And clearly you both had an easier time with that.
I will say, I also feel like with the older sibling, you're like the delicate piece of tissue paper. When you have your first kid, right? No, I'm not talking about you. Hold up. Just hear me out. When you have your first kid, you're like, you only let someone hold them if they sanitize their hands, if they haven't been sick in, 2 years, if they gently hold the baby. But when it's a second kid, you're like, yeah, take him. You just sneezed in your hand. Cool. I don't care. Because it doesn't really matter. And with the second and the third kid, it's like, yeah, I'm sure he can eat dirt. But on the first kid, you're like,
is this your personal experience having eaten dirt as the youngest?
Dirt, it tastes better than you think.
Don't knock it till you try it.
Exactly.
Did you know that you were the test growing up? Did you feel like they don't really know what they're doing? Did you ever get that sense?
Listen, I was totally fine when it was just, two brothers. It's like, yeah, we're 50-50. And then the third one came along. I remember I was mad. I was like, now I got to share even more. And I'm not very good about sharing, to be honest. I'm pretty selfish. I'm willing to admit that. But, it's like looking back at it in retrospect, I'm like, something's not right about this.
The youngest is definitely the one that gets the most attention, right? Because they're completely babied. Is the idea. So the first you test them all out, but the youngest, they're your true baby, I imagine, and you're trying to protect them the most.
I cannot deny this or confirm. No, I mean, you get baby, and I got cool stuff, but also you didn't really share too much because Tony and I were the ones who shared a bedroom for 4 years or something like that.
We
for
did.
A long
I do
time.
remember this.
So we almost got the hand-me-downs of the house of leftover space for a while.
This is something I wanted to talk about, was the whole hand-me-down thing. Hand-me-downs, good or bad? I can't speak on this because I was the oldest.
Here's the problem with hand-me-downs. So it's not necessarily that you have what they had, but I find that we used to get 3 of the same thing just in multiple sizes. Do you guys remember, Matthew, you will, this black V-neck t-shirt that had stripes going horizontally across it? We had 5 of these t-shirts, and they existed in our home for 8 years because our dad had one, I had one, Will had one, and then Matthew got all of them, I remember.
I still have 2 of them. And
there
they are my favorite shirt.
Dude, the best thing
because they fit me perfectly still, and they're so comfortable, and they're just my go-to shirt for anything. They're just fantastic.
The best thing though was when we were really young, and it was all matching sweaters.
Oh my god!
The matching red quarter zip sweaters. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the baby blue.
Every sibling, and at least I will say this: at least our parents had the forethought of not naming us with the same starting letter. Or the same the same syllables that if you have 3 sisters, Karen, Kylie, and whatever. I can't think of a third name, but you think you get the point.
that still doesn't stop our mom from messing up all of our names, calling
true.
us everything under the sun.
Including our cat.
No need
Will,
to call,
Tony, Matt, Momo.
no need to call out our mom. We love you, Mom, if you're listening to this, which hopefully you are.
Oh, she will.
I'll say the middle sibling is the hardest to classify, but I definitely think it's like the go-to person. Like whenever like I visit home and you guys are home as well, and our parents need something, I'm the one they ask or something. I feel like I'm just like the go-to person to either like, oh, can you go to the grocery store, pick this thing up or something, and that's what I feel like the middle one had to deal with.
The true definition of a middleman.
Ooh.
Yeah, they'll go to you for anything unless it's a head of lettuce.
Hey now.
Wait,
Do you want
I
to
don't know the
explain what this
story.
is?
Oh, okay, real quick story. Tony was asked by our mother to get a head of lettuce, a head of lettuce. And this boy comes home so confidently with a head of freaking cabbage, puts it on the table, and our mom is just so disappointed. She's like, this is not at all what I wanted.
It's the day she stopped the go-to person.
Yeah.
That was when Tony made his statement like, I will not be the middleman. I will screw up so clearly and so poignantly to state my
But you
case.
gotta
Tony's
remember-
active protest against produce.
I must have been like 12 years old at the time. Come on, like
Yeah,
cut
you're
me,
like 14
cut me a
or
break.
something.
So
Best
back
I
to
could do
this-
was ramen.
back to this topic because I want to address the fact that over the years our relationship has changed in I think a very specific and profound way, because I remember very specifically wanting nothing to do with you guys, but I think there's this like, how do I put it? Just rivalry, as cliche as that is, with the sibling rivalry and whatever. But really, truly, there is this clash that you have when there are these people that are not too far off from age from you, who share the same set of parents, and you just, you get along one day and another day you're like at each other's throats. And I think that relationship has changed very significantly the older we've gotten. And I think that's really important to note, because that just says that relationships can and they will change over time. And I think for us, that's been for the better.
Yeah, I was definitely like agree with that, because there's a time when you went off to college for the first time and me and Matt were still at home in high school. And I don't think we heard from you for like a year and a half.
No,
like,
I
you were
really
just
distanced myself from there. I
you
remember
were just
that.
gone, and like, and wasn't anything to you per se, but it was just like that sort of distancing. Like, okay, now I'm off to be my sort of own person, because like you get this mix of like we're all kind of living the same life very closely, but that's your chance to like branch off. I can see why.
And you don't know who you are in high school. You don't have it figured out. Even now, especially with being a teacher, you hear all these students and, it's great. Have your dreams, have your aspirations, but golly, just listen to your parents, listen to the adults in your household, because their experience and age, they know so much better. And when I was 18, I was like, adult life, and yeah, I'm an adult. And I knew nothing compared to what I know now. And part of that was like, hey, these like people that you share parents with are actually pretty cool. And they're like their own people, even though you share almost the exact same DNA. And that was something I wish I learned sooner. And, I think now through starting this podcast and our first episode, that's hopefully moving that in the right direction. I think it has been.
Well, I think for sure, like, when you left, that was the time when Tony and I got a lot closer, because we spent every day together. We drove to school together. I'd started high school that year, so we both went to the same school. I think that was the period, or it might have been earlier on, where we had ramen every day for after school snack. But yeah, like we had the drive. We were in jazz band together, so when we got up at 4 a.m. to go play music, like it was all day, nearly all day, other than like the in between classes together. And that was when he and I got really close. And then as you started to conclude your college and started to, talk to us again, I think that's when us as a whole, we started becoming like better friends as well.
The thing about me and Matt's relationship that is scary to this day is that we will, whenever we're in a conversation and like we hear like a joke in our head that we could say on, or like a reference that we could make, we say it, and sometimes we'll just say it at the same time, and we'll just like think of the same thing, and it happens fairly regularly. And it was to the point where I went off to Atlanta for a minute, and I think I was there for like 3-4 months. It was like pretty long stint of not being home. Came back. I think the first sentence we said together, like we said in sync, and it was the most hilarious thing ever.
Yeah, like that. It literally happened yesterday, I think.
Yep.
It
Yeah,
literally,
I don't know
like, we
what it
made
is.
a joke at the same time, or like made a punchline at the exact same time. And there was a point where we would chat on Discord, and like every other day, there's something we would say at the exact same time. I don't understand why. It just is.
There's something to that sibling telepathy that's going on here. And you guys are weird like that. I don't know. Maybe it was the fact that I went off to college and I was like, yep, see you later. Bye. Not going to say much. And then you guys just became very close. And again, I think with the time recently, that has changed for the better. And I'd say that all three of us have a much healthier relationship. But that's just something to acknowledge, that you two are weird like that. Every family gathering is just, it's a hoot and a holler, at least for the first 10 minutes. And then it gets really obnoxious after that.
On top of that, every family gathering, I swear, every time like just us and our immediate family are together for like Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever, it's me and Tony laughing like idiots the entire time while our parents roll their eyes and Will is just sitting there like, what are you two going off about?
You know what I think is so interesting too is that not only is it us specifically, but we share a lot of the same friend groups. You know, like, it's really interesting to think that a lot of the people that we're friends with are not just friends with maybe one of us, but all three of us. You know, that I haven't really encountered with many other like groups of siblings, or maybe I just don't know that many people and I need to get out of my bubble. But I feel like a lot of the time it's, everybody knows us within our own little unit.
I will say, maybe because it's like a high school thing where like we all kind of like went through we literally knew the same people. But in college now, we're hundreds of miles away from you guys. My friends know who you are. Like, I talk about you very often, to the point where like they know you by name. I don't have to say, oh, the older brother, or the other younger brother. It's like, oh, Matthew did this. Yeah, that fits him. Oh, Will went on a bike ride. Yeah, that fits him. Like they start to know who you guys are, especially when I talk about you guys.
Well,
it's because I blabber too much.
You were saying the other day, you were like, yeah, my roommates. And I was like, Tony, I know who your roommate is. You talk about them too. So this is a two-way street for sure.
I was going to say, I think the funniest part too was it didn't take long at all, especially when you moved in with your current roommate, Alex. Like, it took so little time. Like, once we made that Discord group of all of us, that we just knew him and we talked regularly with him, with your other friends, like all these people that we meet and play with regularly and talk to regularly now, like they were your friends and now they're just also our friends, just cuz.
It's so weird, the dynamic of friend groups, because we grew up, like, we always grow up watching these like sitcoms, like, Friends and Community, and it's like this group of like 5, 6, 7, 8 people, and any two people can hang out with any other two people. And I feel like within our group, even with the people that originally are one of your friends, like I could have a conversation with Tony's roommate Alex, or Matt could have a conversation with one of my friends. It's like you can kind of I don't want to say replace each other with each other, because we are still different people. We're not carbon copies of the same person. But I think there is some aspect of this whole, you could be friends with, if you're friends with one of us, you can be friends with all of us.
This has not always been the case, however, because I remember distinctly, like, especially when like I had first started high school and I didn't have that many like friends who in that group and such. that whenever Will, you would go hang out with someone or you would go to a friend's house, it's like the stereotypical, oh, take your younger brother. And that was me, like you took me and I went to go hang out with you guys. And I became friends with them afterwards. But at the start, I was like, I don't know these people. Why do I want to go
There really
hang out
was.
with that? It
There's
happened
so
with
much of
Matthew
that.
too, I think.
There was so much of that, just like, yeah, take your younger brother with you. He'll be fine. And it's like, now thankfully I don't have to worry about that.
Literally, like, I was like 12 when I met some of these people. I'm like a literal child with these like almost 20-year-olds who are 8 feet tall, and I'm just like, hi, I don't know you. And I like, every time it'd be take your little brother with you, and I'd look at you and I'm like, I'm so sorry, I don't want to be there either. And it's not like, no offense to them, I just didn't know them. But either way, they were so nice to me, and they're just like, yeah, like, come hang out, it's fine. And I'm like, okay, and now we're here.
That's such an interesting dynamic too, that I think that that we don't think about sometimes, is just how, now that we're all adults, like, all of our friends are adults, but when you're right, when, I was in college, you both had all your high school friends, and Matt had just started high school by the time I'd left off for college. And so there's that, fact that like, oh yeah, you can meet my little brother, but now, age becomes a little bit less relevant the older that we get in terms of our relationships.
Yeah, your youngest brother who's going to be 21 in a couple of months. We're
exactly.
all full adults at this point.
I still tell people regularly that I'm just a child with a bank account. Like, that is my constant persona, that I act like a child. I have chicken nuggets regularly. Like, there are child things that I do that would not equate me to being a 23. Yeah,
my first couple years teaching, I just kept like repeating in my head, I just feel like a bigger kid teaching smaller kids. Thankfully that's dissipated a little bit more since I've been teaching, and I feel less of that, but because I feel like more like a real adult. But no, it definitely felt for at least the first couple months just like bigger kids teaching smaller kids. And it's so weird being that now then being the youngest in that circle. And I think maybe that's why we also grew closer a little bit, at least recently, is that, there is something to having people around your age and connecting with them, because, it's so weird when you're a new teacher, you're 22, 23, if you start right out of college, teaching kids on the high end who are 18, who are adults, and you're like, oh boy, you are mistaken there.
I was gonna say, I think the thing that at least in like the past like couple months has connected us the most is the thing that we connected on most when we were younger, and that's video games. Like, once you got your PlayStation 4 and we could play Warzone together, even though we are terrible at it and have gotten like
so
3
bad.
wins total
So
ever
bad.
or something like that, it's still just fun to play and chat, and like, it doesn't have to just be like a FaceTime where we talk, and if we don't have anything to say, it's all right, peace out. It's we'll play and then we'll just chat about our week or whatever. And we played regularly, really often, and it's just an easy, simple thing to do, and it's exactly what we did growing up.
Yeah, really. I'm growing up, playing video games and just trading off, 1, 2, 3 every so often, or whoever is going to be the first one to be awake to play. And I think a lot of it too, like you were saying, Matt, it's just been I feel like a lot of it's just been pandemic driven, and the fact that we are able to connect over the internet so easily. Like, I think things would be a lot worse, at least during what we're living through right now, without the internet and without this. But it really is, you're so right, because we would wake up and it'd be Christmas break and just, rotating through playing video games all the time, and just constantly playing video games.
I would just like to say that I would be the one to wake up like 8,
every
7 a.m. on
every
a Saturday.
single time.
I would wake up.
I would get up and be like, oh boy, I can't wait to play Black Ops 1 and try some Kino der Toten Zombies, and then I go downstairs and Tony's already on like round 35, having played for 3.5 hours, already had some ice cream, already...
You know what's beautiful about that is that we had our system where it was like an hour and then you had to rotate or something like that, and if no one else was there, your hour never started.
Game.
So if I started before anyone got up, then you got there. The hour started when you came downstairs as well, and you and then you got out to the game.
Such
It's
a
like
cheater
it's like
system.
it's like if the tree falls in the forest question. It's like if no one sees you start playing, your hour didn't actually start.
1,000%. But I will
So
say
not
too that
fair.
like the thing about like just playing video games and like coming back together, especially all these years later after that initial like PlayStation 2 sort of rocking it out, is like with siblings as much, and you get this with like long-term friends or like best friends, where you go back and you haven't talked with them in a couple months or maybe even years, and then you pick up where you left off, and that's sort of like a rarity amongst like friends, and that I didn't realize was the way like having a brother was like supposed to be. Like when you're in high school and you see each other every day, it's a little different, but you go off and then you come back and you just kind of pick up where you left off. It's more natural and closer to a best friend relationship, and then a little bit more, which I sometimes didn't realize until recently.
Keeping friends though when you're an adult is so much more work than when you're in high school or college. And granted, you both are still in college, and so there's a different part of that. But it's so funny because we always focus on, at least for working young people, to be more productive, to be more engaged in what you're doing, and to find success in your professional life. But your personal lives take work. It takes a lot of work to maintain relationships. People are always like, what? You have to schedule when you're going to hang out with your friends? Why don't you just hang out with them? It's like, people are busy. People got a lot going on. And so being proactive in those relationships so that you can have those moments to pick up where you left off, and not pick up where you left off having been 6 years ago or something crazy like that, I think is important to keep in mind as you're trying to maintain relationships.
Yeah, and I think like what you were saying, like if we didn't have all the resources on the internet, it wouldn't be as easy. And I gotta agree, because things like Discord, I've talked regularly with my friends from my freshman year of high school almost every day for the past like 6 years now, almost 7 years, because of Discord, and we play games almost every day. And if it's been a while, we'll just say, hey, anyone gonna be on tonight? Yup. And we hop in the channel, and it's same old, same old. And it's been that way for years, and it doesn't slow down, and it's just so easy because you can hop in and out whenever. And yeah, I like tell people like, yeah, I still talk regularly to my friends from high school, and they're like, what, how? And I'm like, because we just talk and we just hang out in Discord, and it's no problem.
I had an argument recently with another friend, and it was the difference between like acquaintances and friends, because like I was telling her, I was like, oh, I have a bunch of friends in my college program here. And she goes, no, 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 no. You don't have friends. You have acquaintances. Like you see these people
Just leave it
when
there.
you,
You don't have friends.
yeah, like you just like you see them only periodically, maybe like before or after class or whatever, or maybe they're your coworker and they're your friend. And I was like, nah, 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 you're crazy. Come pandemic time, I don't see any of these so-called acquaintances anymore, and now I'm starting to doubt whether I was correct and that these were actually friends or not.
To Matt's point about Discord, I felt like such a boomer trying to learn Discord the first couple of weeks. I was like, how do I message somebody? I felt so stupid, and I was like, this is the end. This is the beginning of the end of my technological illiteracy. This is here.
That was hilarious, I will say. I was like trying to help you like join the channel. I was like, all right, just click on general. You got
I felt
this.
so stupid. I felt so stupid. It's the exact same thing when you're trying to troubleshoot something remotely. It's impossible. It is so challenging because all
Yeah.
you want to do is look over someone's shoulder and say, "Yeah, just click there," and that's all you do. And when you're trying to do it remotely, it's like having somebody blindfolded and you're trying to navigate them through a maze. It's like, yep, take a step forward, and no, too far, and go a little bit left, too far left. It's impossible.
Yeah. And I feel like the thing with like the difference between friends and acquaintances is I feel like acquaintances know like personal, or I'm sorry, friends know like personal things about you, versus acquaintances, you see them because you see them because of some common scheduling thing. They're not seeing them because you want to see them or because you're trying to see them, just because you do. Like I've had some friends from classes where like, yeah, I see them and like we chat and we laugh and it's cool, but then we never talk again. But I've also had some where we'll chat and we'll play some video games or whatever. But I still don't know if we're necessarily friends, because I do feel like friends, that requirement is, there needs to be some level of personalness in there. And I feel like knowing something personal about the other, even if it's a simple thing, is what makes it more of a friendship rather than just, colleagues or whatnot.
Bouncing off that, because you said it, how do you guys feel about colleagues or work friends?
I'm a huge fan. I follow a lot of my coworkers on like Facebook and such, and I will say it's a bit harder though now because I started a new job in November, and it was completely online, and it has been since, and it will continue to be for the next few months.
Right.
So the only time I really interact with people is like in a meeting sort of setting. It's not like the like water cooler chat or whatever you're supposed to get from like a workplace environment. We literally have a meeting called a stand-up meeting that's supposed to last like 15 minutes, and it's like the whole division or whatever, and everyone gives quick updates and then they go sit back down. We don't have that anymore. We just have to get on another Zoom call.
Yeah, I'll say work friends get you through the day. Like work sucks, jobs suck. But when I worked full time at a grocery store in their produce section, not this last summer, but the summer before, pre-pandemic. And, it's good money, but, it's boring, it's back labor intensive and whatnot. But it was always fun when, that cool coworker is going to be there that day, your favorite coworker, so you can joke around with them and make the time go by a lot faster. And, the work friends get you through the day for sure.
Especially those like menial jobs that are very repetitive, that the kind of jobs you have where it's a job, not a career. And even though unfortunately there are some people who stick in those jobs for a while just because of any other circumstance. But if you're young and you have a job at like a grocery store, just trying to find other cool people helps things out, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how I felt working at Best Buy. Gosh, working in inventory, where your job description is literally to pick things up and put them down, and to do it in a very specific way. If you don't have anyone to talk to, it's just like the whole time.
This might be a sibling thing too, because you guys both worked in like high school and then early college as well. My first job was in working at a research lab at the University of Michigan. I didn't work in high school or
Weird flex, but okay.
or such. I know, right? But it's like I just didn't work in high school, so I just didn't get that experience. But I know you both did.
Do you think that's a sibling thing though? Do you think that's like because I don't know, you got an allowance, or I don't know, that I'm not sure if that's sibling attributed.
I'm saying I got pampered. I didn't need to.
Yeah.
At least you admitted it. That's the important thing.
Definitely, because I got my first job at 15, I think, working in a grocery store, and that shit sucks. Like they treat you pretty poorly there. Like they treat you like a child, and obviously you are a child, but like you have a functioning brain. Like you're working, you're still doing this. You're making less than minimum wage, for Christ's sake, and they treat you terribly. And like I always thought about like our difference in work experience, Tony, because your first job was in college in research, and mine was bagging in a grocery store in Livonia, and it was like it sucks. But that experience of working that menial hourly job to just try and make a quick buck and put some cash in my pocket, I feel like helped me, and it let me feel more comfortable taking those kind of jobs and knowing what to expect. And like when I took that other grocery store job working in produce, I made a lot of money and I saved a lot of money, and I was pretty well off for that year.
It's good that you like respect that sort of process too, because obviously I don't have the personal experience, as I said, but I have some friends who are still in undergrad, and for the summer they take like working at a grocery store or some other similar job for most of the summer, and some view it as like, oh, I'm overqualified for this per se. So I mean, I feel like it's a good perspective that you have. It's you're respecting it, and it did something for you regardless of the level of work. I think that's important.
We'll have to save entry-level jobs for another podcast topic so we can dive more deep into this. I have some opinions about some of the early jobs I had, and they teach you a lot for better or for worse, especially being a caddy on a golf course, just carrying around well-off people's golf clubs for 3 hours across a really hot golf course.
So how do you think we will interact as brothers in the years to come as we get like more settled in like, I guess, adult jobs is how I describe it to my other friends?
I hope it just gets better. I hope we stay close, and I think we will. I don't see why not, especially obviously distance and proximity matter. I mean, that matters a lot in any relationship. If you're far away from somebody, it's inherently more difficult to maintain that relationship. But I would hope that in 5-10 years, you know, we get real jobs, or you get married, or kids, that things end up being more positive and trending in that direction. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't see myself changing much as a person. Like, I'm a simple dude.
That's
I
a
get
lie.
up, I do my work, I get what I need to get done, and at the end of the day, I hop in Discord and I play some video games. And as long as you're able to hop in Discord or hop in some form of call or anything, I feel like we'll be fine. Because, I mean, Tony lives on the other side of the country right now, and we're still able to talk to him pretty much daily. We're still able to chat and play video games with him pretty much no issue. Obviously, for our parents, it's different because they don't do that. But for us, it's pretty easy to stay in contact with him. And even, you know, you and I we live decently far, you know, not crazy, but not just an afternoon drive that's comfortable to see each other.
For sure.
Got to be that couple that or that like brothers that just go and live super close to each other, like next door or something, like crazy.
Wouldn't the dream, yeah, where it's like you have the biggest house and you just all rent out different parts of a huge house or something? I don't know. With how crazy expensive housing is, and just houses in general, or maybe that's going to be the move.
I'm still convinced that the best move is to get like 8 friends and then rent out a mansion. You split that between a bunch of you. I'm sure it's a normal rent at that point, or typical rent.
You lost me at 8 friends.
Yeah. That's assuming quite a bit, Tony.
You need 8 acquaintances, my bad. Just 8 of your closest acquaintances.
8 people you don't know at all.
Random
better way
people
to-
off of the street.
Yeah. Who's gonna say no to that?
Yeah. I bumped into this guy in the hallway. I think he'll be a good roommate.
I had no joke. A coworker of mine in undergrad, she moved into basically a mansion with 7 people, and I think, if I remember correctly, it was she knew 1 or 2 people, and then through like, you know, 2 or 3 degrees of freedom, you got to the other people. Like, she didn't know everyone personally. They were all acquaintances, and they got a mansion together, and they have this massive yard, and it's like a 6-7 bedroom like house. Like, it's huge, and they split the rent, and it's great.
Isn't part of that, though, I feel like that would get a little bit dicey when you're talking about, like, what about if you want to move out and you're paying into equity? And I don't know. Hopefully they had something pre-worked out beforehand.
Yeah, it's definitely a fragile situation.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sure, it's fine.
Sure, it's fine. It's fine. It's all fine. And I think that wraps it up for our first episode of the Everything Bros podcast. Thank you all for listening, either on YouTube or Spotify or wherever this podcast ends up. And with that, I am the favoritist older brother, Will.
I'm the cool middle brother, Tony.
And I'm the coolest youngest brother, Matt.
And we'll catch y'all later.